Alright, time to start hooking stuff up. I went ahead and put the positive negative on the coil here. Realized I need to start integrating the painless wiring harness in here as well. This is the ignition bypass, needs to be hooked up to the positive terminal, so I'm going to go ahead and wire that and get it on there. I also moved the inlet from the passenger side to the driver's side, and you can see kind of ran the fuel hose down and underneath. I think it looks a little nicer. It's still not as pretty as I'd like it, you know, but things can move later down the road. I'm not worried about it. I just really want it to run. Also moving this over, I had to move the fuel pressure sensor as well, and so I had to move that from here to there, which meant moving these other ones that were bundled in with it. I unhooked these, just kind of wrapped them around this way to make it a little cleaner, and then I'm gonna have to kind of double back on this coolant temperature, because that one is long, and I think it was because it was on the opposite side of that, and now that we're all on the same side, it's way too long, but I'll double it back and kind of loom it in. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and wire this guy up and then head on to the next wires. Alright, kind of ran this wire forward, and then I'm going to run it underneath to that point. I always run extra, then I'll pull it back into the car and loop it, so I have a service loop on these wires. If you don't make a service loop, then inevitably something's going to go wrong and you're going to have to patch wire in, and it just gets real nasty. I'm just going to strip this. Let's see if I'm in frame here. Oh yeah, look at that, I'm in frame. Driver and put this on there. Okay, I just put that in there with the positive, and now we gotta see what else we gotta wire up. Next, I'm gonna tie in the tachometer signal, which goes into the negative terminal on the coil. So I'm gonna follow that same path that I did on the ignition bypass, and that'll just go under there, so that's good. Stripped wire. This nut off. Try not to drop things. And then with these hooked up, I might go ahead and pull the turn that over. pull these wires back so that they're, oh, son of a bitch. I knew I was gonna drop something. That was just the locking nut, that's all. I'll have to find that, or the locking washer. All right, time to get to my magnet. All right, I found it. Here we go. All right. So I think my coil is completely hooked up. I got the ignition bypass and positive on this side. Got the negative and the tachometer signal here. I'm gonna pull those wires back, kind of clean that up. The only thing I have left is this coolant temperature sensor, which I'm gonna put over here. Not sure if it's in that one or that one, but I'm still waiting on that to come. Okay, and to pull those wires back, I'm gonna start like I did on that other one, where this isn't gonna go through there because it's just looped in kind of. Oh, it is. See, these things just, they will tangle themselves. All right, let's undo that. There we go. I'm just gonna set that kind of over that way so it's out of the way. Maybe stay over there. All right, and then take these two wires and pull them back like so. And if I don't like where they are, I might move them. We'll see. I'm not sure if I want to go. I guess if I go in the front, I can loom it right there. I don't really know if I want to go behind it. Another option is to break it off right here, go across and then that way. That might be cleaner. Yep. Let's do that. Okay, let's pull those out of there. Like so. Okay, so I'm gonna go put it under like so. Not like that, not like that. Yep, and that's why I like to lead a little extra, because it gives me room to do different things. these. And then just right here. Cool. And these will all be loomed as well. So all right, now I gotta see what next. All right, I'm up under the car. I'm getting ready to run the wires for the fuel pump. So you can see they come out right there. And then there's these clips that run along here, and that's where the original fuel sending unit wire was. And then it runs into there. You can see the, if I can find it here, hold on. Gotta find another video. So this is the wire here, and then it goes in right there to that grommet. So I'm gonna pull that out, and then what I'm gonna do is the end of this hooks onto this extension here. That's all waterproof, so I'm gonna tie that up there because it'll be a lot easier to run these few cables into the car, and then we'll get it hooked up to the relay. So I'm gonna push this grommet out from the trunk side. Looks like there's a little less to deal with, so I'm going to push it out and then run those cables through there. All right, so this is the end of that sending unit cable. I'm going to cut it kind of long here because I might need to use that end at some point, so this will be easier to tie into if I need to. So I cut it there, set that aside, keep it. And then I'm going to pull you can see I pop the grommet out this way, pull the wire through there, and then I'm going to try and run this through the grommet. I don't know if I'm going to get it through or not. We'll see. All right. I went ahead and reused those clips to hold that wire up there. And then that's where the waterproof connector goes. Was not going to get those wires through that grommet, so I'm going to have to get a different grommet for that. And then let's look at it from the top side. Oh. So you just have it poking in through here, and I'll figure out, I'm probably just going to run it back towards the front there because that's where the fuse box is and everything. And I'll have to put that, what you call it in there, the relay. This is a fuel pump relay kit I got. You can see the part number there, and I'm going to go ahead and unbox it and see where we're going to put it. So I'm using instructions from both the Painless and from the fuel pump itself. Pretty similar on both of them. I'm just, there's some things we want to make sure of, like for instance this ground here has to go in to the same ground that I use here most likely, if I place this close enough to the fuel pump. Otherwise I have to have a separate ground here as that one. It might be easier just to tie them together. So I'm going to try and do that real quick, and that will also mount the relay here to the chassis, and you can see this little ground wire will go into the screw there, and so I just put the other one in with it, and all the grounds will be done then, and then we start wiring up the rest of the stuff. Okay, so I wanted this to look decent, so I didn't want the relay sitting like down here on the base of the trunk, and then my first thought was to kind of put it up in here, but there was no way I was going to get my drill in there to kind of get a hole to tap into or put that self-tapping screw in or anything. And so looked around and I found this little area back here, and so you can see I put that ground from the relay, and then I split off the ground from the fuel pump, and I ran that on the other side of this hinge, and it's sitting. I'm gonna set it to where it's not gonna be touched by the hinge or anything, and then that runs down into there, and then the other 3 cables from the pump come this way, and so I'll relume those, and then that'll make it look a little nicer, I think. That was not easy to get in there though. Just I had to be a contortionist. All right, my next step was to hook the thicker gauged yellow wire from the relay to the fuel pump. Looking at the 2 schematics, this guy says fuel pump, large yellow wires that's from the Painless. This one shows you the gray wire goes from the fuel pump to the relay. So I got the gray tied into the yellow, and kind of what I did is I cut that yellow shorter, so I can kind of tuck it down, into there, and then I'm gonna run it kind of just down in this way, and I'll tie it in so that this is flat, and it'll be under the carpet and pad and everything. So something like that, and then I gotta tie this purple wire into the gauge. So that's actually on the other harness, this harness here, that came, that was my original Painless harness. So I'm gonna do that. All right, so then I found this yellow and white wire from the original Painless harness that I put in, and it was way longer, so I clipped a pretty good chunk of it off. You can see there, because it's originally supposed to go around and then down into that hole and over into the sending unit. But since we have the fuel pump down there, I cut all that off, and I'm hooked it to there. I'm gonna tuck that into there, and then these are gonna have to go towards the front of the car. All right, tape the end of that so that I can keep those wires together. I'm gonna try and feed them up and over this wheel well, and then grab them from the other side. All right, yeah, so I was able to feed those right through. You can see them right there. Now I'm gonna grab them and try and follow where the other cables were. I don't see them down here, but they go into this channel here. And then I'm going to try and run them to the front, and that's where I'll mount the fuse. One thing I wanted to make a point to show is that I made it so I can reach from the side over here to plug and unplug this relay. If I had pointed it up, it would have been stuck onto that panel, wouldn't have worked. So you can see I ran those 2 cables that way, and they ran pretty well up and over that wheel well. And then I came in here, and you want to just do this one step at a time. So I came in here, I found them over the wheel well right here, pulled them out through this hole all the way, and then fed them back in behind this panel here. That's the back panel to the window, and then fed them all the way over to there, and then out again, and then back into that hole, and through this tray, and then into there, out this hole, back in, up through this hole, back in, and then finally through that hole. Makes it a lot easier if you're trying to pull just one section at a time rather than trying to pull it all at once, because if it gets snagged, you don't know where, and it's just a pain in the ass. So I'm in up under the dash now. Now I'm gonna see where I'm gonna mount that fuse block and or that fuse, and then plug these guys in. All right, so we need to get constant and switched power. Red's gonna be the constant, so I think the best place to get constant is from the battery itself. So I'm gonna follow these cables out, and then switched will be somewhere under here. I'll find something in the dash, under dash, to get a switch power. I think I'm gonna mount this fuse like in here. I was thinking about putting it under the hood, but I just didn't like anywhere. It looks kind of ugly over there, so just put it somewhere like maybe here or here or something, and just kind of get it out of the way. That's what that thing looks like mounted in there. So this was all just one wire. Cut it, put these ring terminals on, and then put the fuse in between them. I keep calling it a fuse, it's a circuit breaker in between them. And that side is running out. It's going to run out to straight to the battery. All right, and there's the other side. They gave you a bigger terminal to hook up to this side. I didn't cut any length off of this end because it comes just about perfect. I might have to tuck a little bit back in under the dash, but that's fine with me. So I'd say that they did a pretty good job on cutting this to length. Painless. Now I'm going to go find a switched terminal for underneath the dash, and that should get us hooked up. So a nice simple switched circuit is the radio. This yellow black cable here is the radio switched circuit, and or switched wire. So I'm just going to tie into that, and then when I get the radio I'll splice and put that in, but I have plenty here to just run this back here and run that cable over and tie it all in together. Now you just tie it in there with that butt connector that was already on there. Like I said, I left it in the radio area right here so you can see it. Splice into it when we're ready. I know what it is. This is running back here. I'll run it probably down below with the rest of these cables, kind of tie it into that. And then I left a service loop right there for it. All right, and the final step of hooking this fuel pump up is this black wire here is going to go all the way up to the negative on the battery. The only reason I didn't run it with the other wires when I ran those forward was because I didn't have the wire yet. So there it is. I bought some, and now I'm going to wire it in. All right, ran that cable up to the front, made it about the same length as the other, the red cable that we ran before. So those will be right there on the battery at the terminals once we get that. Threw a little heat shrink on those. Not real happy with the way that heat shrink shrunk, I guess. So I'm gonna loom all this anyway, so we'll see how it looks after that. I might have to redo those terminals, but we'll see.